15 years. That's how long two people inside a single American defense agency spent studying one mountain in Iran before a single bomb was ever dropped on it. Not 15 days, not 15 months, 15 years of watching one target, dreaming about it at night, driving to work thinking about it, studying its geology, its ventilation shafts, its electrical systems, and every single piece of equipment that went in or came out of it. And then, on a day in June of 2025, the phone rang, and everything those two people had spent their entire careers preparing for happened in roughly 25 minutes over the skies of Iran. Welcome back, everybody, to Alex on World Affairs. Today we are breaking down Operation Midnight Hammer, the night the United States dropped the most powerful non-nuclear bomb it has ever built in combat for the very first time in history on a target buried more than 300 feet inside a mountain. Stick around, because by the end of this one, you're going to understand exactly why 6 separate 30,000-pound bombs were sent down a single ventilation shaft, one after another. Why Iran tried to pour concrete over that exact shaft in the days before the strike. And why, despite the president declaring the sites completely and totally obliterated, the single hardest question of this entire war might still be sitting unanswered tonight. I want to walk you through exactly what's confirmed here, because there is an enormous amount of loud, exaggerated talk online about what happened at Fordow, and a lot of that talk does not match what the Pentagon, the IAEA, and independent reporting are actually saying. So let's get into it, sourced step by step. First, understand why this one facility matters so much. Fordow isn't a normal nuclear site. It sits dug into the side of a mountain near the Iranian city of Qom, with the actual enrichment hall buried roughly 300 feet beneath solid rock. According to reporting from the war zone, construction on Fordow is understood to have started back in 2006, and by 2009, the US intelligence community had already flagged it as something extraordinary. As the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, put it, "You do not build a multi-layered underground bunker complex with centrifuges and other equipment in a mountain for any peaceful purpose." That single sentence tells you almost everything about why this place became an obsession for American planners. Here's the part most people don't know. When American officials first realized what Fordow was, they also realized something uncomfortable. They didn't actually have a weapon capable of destroying it. Nothing in the entire US arsenal could reliably reach a target buried that deep under that much rock. So they built one. According to General Kane, an officer at the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, was brought into a vault in 2009, shown highly classified imagery of a mysterious construction project in the mountains of Iran, and tasked to study it. He and a teammate spent more than 15 years living and breathing that single target. And along the way, they helped drive the development of the weapon that would eventually be used against it, the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator. Let me tell you about this bomb, because the scale of it genuinely matters. The GBU-57, also called the MOP, is a 30,000-pound munition, about 20 feet long, comprised of steel, explosive, and a fuse. According to reporting from USNI News, it's capable of tunneling through more than 100 feet of concrete before detonating, and it is widely believed to be the only weapon in the entire US or Israeli arsenal capable of reaching a target like Fordow. It's so specialized that only one aircraft on Earth can even carry it, the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. And here's a detail I find genuinely remarkable. According to General Kane, in the early stages of the MOP's development, the program had so many PhDs running modeling and simulation that the United States quietly, and in secret, became the single biggest user of supercomputer hours in the entire country. That's how much intellectual firepower went into solving one mountain. Now let's walk through the actual operation, and I want to go through this carefully because the details matter far more than the headlines suggest. According to the Pentagon's own briefings reported by CBS News, the main strike package consisted of 7 B-2 bombers that launched from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and flew a round trip that lasted more than a day, one of the longest B-2 missions since 2001. These bombers flew east, across the Atlantic, over the Mediterranean, and into the Middle East, refueled repeatedly in midair by a fleet of KC-135 and KC-46 tankers that had been pre-positioned specifically to support the mission. But here's where it gets genuinely clever. At the same time the real strike package flew east, the US sent a separate group of B-2 bombers west, out over the Pacific, as a decoy. According to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, this deception was deliberately designed to throw off Iranian air defenses and keep them looking in the wrong direction. In total, more than 125 aircraft were involved in the broader operation, including fighters, electronic warfare aircraft, surveillance planes, and refuelers. As Hegseth put it, our B-2s went in and out and back without the world knowing at all. Before the bombers reached their targets, American fighter jets swept ahead to suppress any Iranian surface-to-air missile threats. According to General Kane, the U.S. was, quote, currently unaware of any shots fired at the U.S. strike package on the way in. Iran's air defenses, already heavily degraded by weeks of Israeli strikes that had begun on June 13th, simply never got the chance to respond. Then came the moment 15 years in the making. Over roughly 25 minutes, the B-2S dropped a total of 14 GBU-57 bunker busters. According to Defense Scoop, 12 of those bombs were dropped on Fordow, and the remaining 2 struck an underground portion of the enrichment facility at Natanz. A third site, Isfahan, was hit separately, targeted by more than 24 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from a U.S. Navy submarine. In total, U.S. forces employed roughly 75 precision-guided weapons across the entire operation. And as General Kane confirmed, this marked the first ever operational use of the massive ordnance penetrator. A weapon 15 years in the making, used in anger for the very first time. Now here's the detail that I think is the single most fascinating part of this entire story, and it's the part most casual coverage skips right over. The 12 bombs dropped on Fordow were not just dumped on the mountain randomly. According to General Kane, the primary targets were 2 ventilation shafts, the openings that sat above ground and led down into the buried complex. And each of the 12 bombs had its fuse programmed bespokely, meaning each individual weapon had a unique impact angle, a unique arrival time, a unique final heading, and a unique fuse setting. This wasn't carpet bombing. This was closer to surgery performed with 30,000-pound instruments. But Iran knew the shafts were the weak point too. According to General Kane, in the days immediately before the attack, the Iranians attempted to cover those ventilation shafts with concrete to try to prevent exactly this kind of strike. And here's the chilling part of his account. I won't share the specific dimensions of the concrete cap, Kane told reporters, but you should know that we know what the dimensions of those concrete caps were. The planners had to account for this. They accounted for everything. So here's how it actually unfolded, shaft by shaft. 6 bombs were assigned to each of the 2 ventilation shafts. According to Kane's account reported by the War Zone, the first weapon forcibly removed the concrete cap and uncovered the main shaft. Then weapons 2, 3, 4, and 5 were tasked to enter that open shaft, travel down into the complex at greater than 1,000 feet per second, and detonate deep inside what planners called the mission space. The 6th bomb in each group was held as a flex weapon, a backup, in case any of the preceding jets or bombs failed. According to Kane, all 6 weapons at each vent at Fordow went exactly where they were intended to go. Think about that for a second, because it's genuinely extraordinary. Bombs sent one after another down the same narrow shaft, drilling deeper and deeper into a mountain, each one clearing the path for the next. One of the pilots reportedly described it afterward by saying, "This was the brightest explosion that I've ever seen. It literally looked like daylight." And remember, this all happened in the dead of night. If you're finding this kind of detailed sourced breakdown useful, the real story, instead of whatever exaggerated clip is trending this week, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications right now, because this uranium thread specifically is going to keep developing, and I plan to keep tracking it every single time something new actually gets independently confirmed. Now, let's talk about the damage, because this is where the story gets genuinely contested, and I want to be very careful here to separate what's confirmed from what's disputed. In the hours after the strike, President Trump addressed the nation and declared that Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities had been completely and totally obliterated. General Kane's initial assessment was more measured, saying that early battle damage assessments indicated all 3 sites had sustained extremely severe damage and destruction, while cautioning that final battle damage assessment would take time. Satellite imagery from Maxar Technologies, reviewed by CBS News, showed several large craters on the ridge directly above the underground complex at Fordow, a visible layer of ash spread across the area, and several tunnel entrances that appeared blocked by dirt and debris. At Natanz, imagery showed a crater roughly 5.5 meters wide directly over part of the underground complex. At Isfahan, the Tomahawk strikes caused extensive building damage. But here's the key detail that a lot of the more triumphant coverage conveniently leaves out. Within days, a leaked initial intelligence assessment from the Defense Intelligence Agency suggested that the damage to Fordow specifically might have been far more limited than senior officials were claiming, with some reporting indicating the program may have only been set back by a matter of months rather than years. That leak directly prompted the Pentagon's follow-up briefing. Defense Secretary Hegseth pushed back hard, telling reporters there was low confidence in this particular report, and General Kane drew a careful line, reminding everyone that the military doesn't grade its own homework. The intelligence community handles battle damage assessment. What the military could confirm, he said, was narrow but specific. The weapons were built, tested, and loaded properly. They were released on the correct parameters. They guided to their intended aim points, and they functioned as designed, meaning they exploded. Notice how careful that language actually is. Confirming that bombs exploded exactly where they were aimed is a very different claim from confirming that Iran's nuclear program was destroyed. And that gap between what the weapons did and what the outcome actually was is exactly where the real uncertainty in this entire story lives. The IAEA, the world's nuclear watchdog, added its own careful assessment. Its Director General, Rafael Grossi, told the UN Security Council that his team was unable to assess the underground damage at Fordow directly, but he noted the sites had suffered enormous damage. Crucially, the agency reported no increase in off-site radiation levels, but Grossi also warned that a window for returning to diplomacy was closing fast, saying that if it shut, violence and destruction could reach unthinkable levels. Now, here's where we get to the genuinely hardest question in this entire war, and it's the part I think deserves far more attention than it gets. Bombing the buildings is one thing, but where is Iran's actual enriched uranium? Because a bomb can destroy a centrifuge hall. It cannot make a stockpile of enriched material easier to find once it's been moved and hidden. And this is the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath all the dramatic strike footage. Airstrikes can degrade infrastructure, collapse tunnels, and kill scientists, but they consistently struggle to solve the much harder problem of locating and accounting for material that a determined government has already gone to great lengths to disperse and conceal. Since Iran expelled international inspectors in the wake of these strikes, the IAEA has openly acknowledged it cannot fully verify the location or condition of Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium. And that stockpile is not small. By the agency's own prior accounting, Iran was sitting on enough near-weapons-grade material for potentially multiple weapons if it were further enriched. Read that carefully, because it's arguably the most important fact in this entire story. 2 major military campaigns against Iran's nuclear program within roughly a year of each other, and by the watchdog's own accounting, the actual enriched material at the center of the whole dispute may have become harder to locate, not easier, as a direct result of all that bombing. Strikes disperse personnel and drive material further underground. They do not make previously hidden material easier to independently verify from the outside once inspectors have been locked out. Quick gut check before we keep going. Drop a comment right now with the word obliterated if you think the strikes genuinely set Iran's program back for years, or the word delayed if you think this only bought a matter of months. I genuinely want to see where this audience lands before I give you my own read later in the video. Let me also put this in its broader strategic context, because Midnight Hammer did not happen in a vacuum. According to USNI News, at the time of the strikes, the United States had roughly 40,000 troops stationed across the Middle East, spread throughout Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan, Syria, Qatar, and elsewhere. The Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group was operating in the North Arabian Sea, with the Nimitz Strike Group arriving in the region that same weekend. Multiple guided missile destroyers were positioned in the Red Sea and the Mediterranean, specifically to intercept any ballistic missiles aimed at Israel or US bases. And the retaliation warnings came fast. Iran's parliament voted to close the Strait of Hormuz, a waterway that, under normal conditions, handles roughly a fifth of the entire world's seaborne oil trade, though the final decision rested with Iran's Supreme National Security Council. Iran-aligned Houthi forces in Yemen warned they would resume attacks on US ships in the Red Sea. Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq threatened US bases. And President Trump responded with a blunt warning of his own, writing that Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. I want to pause here and give you my own honest analysis, and I'll flag clearly that this next part is my opinion, not reported fact. I think Operation Midnight Hammer was, on a purely technical level, one of the most impressive military operations in recent memory. 15 years of preparation, a 37-hour round trip, a decoy package, complete surprise, and 14 of the most complex bombs ever built delivered exactly where they were aimed. From an execution standpoint, that's about as close to flawless as a mission of this complexity gets. But, and this is the crucial but, technical perfection in the strike does not automatically translate into strategic success in the outcome. And I think the gap between those two things is exactly what we're watching play out in the competing damage assessments right now. Here's my honest read on where this actually sits. Destroying the buildings and the centrifuge halls was always the achievable part. The genuinely hard part, the part no bomb can fully solve, is accounting for the enriched material itself. And as long as that material remains unverified, unmonitored, and sitting somewhere inside Iranian territory with international inspectors locked out, this problem doesn't actually go away. It just becomes harder to see. That's the uncomfortable paradox at the center of this entire campaign. The more you bomb, the more you disperse, and the more you disperse, the harder the underlying problem becomes to actually resolve. I want to spend a moment on the human stakes underneath all of this, because it's genuinely easy to talk through fuse settings and ventilation shafts and supercomputer hours and completely lose sight of what's actually at stake here for real people. There are Iranian workers, engineers, and technicians whose lives run through these facilities. There are families living in the towns near Qom and Natanz and Isfahan who heard those explosions in the middle of the night and had no part whatsoever in the decisions that led to them. And on the other side, there are the two DTRA officers General Kane described, people who spent 15 years of their professional lives on a single target, who reportedly dreamed about that mountain at night. Whatever you think about the strategy, this is a story about real human beings on every side of it, not just craters on a satellite image. And there's a broader risk worth sitting with too. Grossi's warning about radioactive release wasn't abstract. Bombing nuclear facilities, even successfully, carries genuine environmental danger, and the fact that no off-site radiation increase was detected this time is a mercy, not a guarantee for next time. Every additional strike in an environment this densely packed with nuclear material raises the odds of an incident that would harm people who have nothing to do with any of it. So here's where things actually stand. As of the most recent confirmed reporting, the United States conducted Operation Midnight Hammer on June 22, 2025, dropping 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker busters, 12 on Fordow and 2 on Natanz, in the first operational use of the weapon in history, while Tomahawk missiles struck Isfahan. The Pentagon confirmed the bombs functioned exactly as designed and hit their intended aim points. Satellite imagery confirmed severe surface damage. The president called the sites completely and totally obliterated, while a leaked intelligence assessment suggested the setback might be measured in months rather than years, a dispute the administration pushed back on hard. The IAEA confirmed enormous damage but could not verify the underground results, and crucially, cannot currently account for Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium now that inspectors have been expelled. Fordow was struck, and struck harder than perhaps any buried target in history. But whether that strike actually solved the underlying problem or simply drove it deeper and further out of sight is a genuinely open question that neither side can answer with full confidence right now. And that, based on everything independently confirmed and reported so far, is where this war's most difficult, unresolved question currently sits. Thank you so much for watching this one all the way through. I know this was a deep dive, but Operation Midnight Hammer is genuinely one of the most important single threads to understand if you want to make sense of where this whole war might be headed next, rather than just reacting to whatever headline shows up in your feed today. Drop a comment and let me know whether you think Iran's program was truly set back for years or just delayed for months. I read every single one, and if you called it earlier with your one-word obliterated or delayed comment, I want to know if this breakdown changed your mind at all. Make sure you're subscribed so you catch the next update the moment something actually changes on this specific story, and I'll see you in the next one.